Hello. Today, God help me, I'm going to talk about Star Wars, this Obi-Wan Kenobi show, which is the full title, by the way. I could have sworn it was just Kenobi, but it's his full name. Does that feel weird to anybody else? Like, the name of the show is just a character's name. What does that communicate? I watched the episodes that are currently out. It's 3 or 4 episodes. And I just kept having these questions pop up in my mind, and I don't really have answers to them. So I'm just gonna ask you some questions, add some of my own comments, some impressions of the show so far overall, and maybe open it up to a wider discussion of the ongoing cultural moment that is the Disney revival, or attempted revival, maybe we should say, of the Star Wars brand. The big question, I think, is what was special about Star Wars, meaning the original trilogy, and what is special about modern day Star Wars, meaning from The Force Awakens onward, etc. The theme park, even. Regardless of your opinion of modern day Star Wars stuff, I don't think too many people would argue that they do have different vibes overall. They're different. They're made in completely different eras. They're made with completely different technology. The effects are largely different overall. Their performances are quite different. There has to be a difference there. There was something special about those original movies, and there is supposed to be something special about the newer entries. These new movies and shows are supposed to be offering something to us on some level, period. Whether it's just plain entertainment value, whether it's spectacle, I guess, impressive production value and effects. What else? They could potentially offer some really interesting stories, interesting characters that we haven't really seen before in this universe. Specifically, while watching the Kenobi stuff, I don't know what that is. I kind of have an idea on a personal level of what was special about that original trilogy. Incredible atmosphere, weirdly relatable performances from a lot of the lead cast. Like, a lot of the characters don't feel especially foreign or like spacey. They just seem like people. Even Mark Hamill in those just seems like a dude from the 70s. You know what I mean? Fun, very entertaining movies, great pacing overall, plot twists, neat designs, production design, obviously, incredible music. And, if someone's twisting my arm, I guess I could admit that a lot of the modern Star Wars stuff has some of those elements. At a base level, the shows and the movies, the modern Star Wars stuff, it does look good. Clearly, a ton of very highly skilled people are working on all these projects, but I don't feel myself connecting with these stories. I don't find myself returning to them. I'm not the script doctor. I'm not the guy who would step in and say, change this, this, and this, and you'll capture some of that original magic. No, I don't know what it is. I don't really know what's missing. All I can say is, I think maybe the attempt at all to capture the old magic as opposed to capturing some kind of new magic, something interesting and original that's just based on that source material, has been a mistake. Star Wars Visions, remember that? Where they had the anime studios do little stories and stuff? That was kind of neat. At the very least, we got a lot of variety out of those episodes. But going back to Kenobi specifically, if you took away the Star Wars branding, if you took away the mentions of, pre-established Star Wars stuff, locations, characters, what is it? What is it actually offering to the audience? And is it doing a good job of offering that to the audience? I had a good stretch of time, I'll say, basically the first 2 episodes of the show, where I just didn't understand what I was supposed to care about, or why I was supposed to be hooked on the show. Even in terms of tone, it feels to me like there's a conflict between, for one thing, some sort of graphic violent stuff and also conceptually dark elements. I don't know if there's a way to possibly look at the Inquisitor characters, so those are the Jedi hunters of the Empire. Is there a way to look at them and their job and their process of hunting down Jedi without immediately drawing comparisons to, I think some of these words I'm not allowed to say on YouTube, the bad German guys from the mid-20th century who were doing a lot of bad stuff. Are the comparisons not like nearly one-to-one there? In fact, one of the opening scene of the series, I was just thinking the entire time, this is Inglourious Bastards. I am watching a long, drawn-out dialogue scene from Inglourious Bastards, but in a weird sci-fi setting. And then even just the name Inquisitors, okay, so now we're drawing direct allusions to the Spanish Inquisition? Religious-based persecution? So there's one tone where you have what seem to be purposeful comparisons to really dark eras in human history, during which all these horrible crimes were perpetrated against innocent people, and at the same time, you have over here this like wacky kids movie adventure thing going on, and for my own reasons, I don't see the value here. And it really is getting to the point where all of us collectively maybe need to have a sit down with somebody at Disney, somebody who is making some big decisions about how they manage their brands, because it's been a while now since they've gotten back to the whole, hey look, Star Wars is back, it's a Disney thing now, but don't worry, we're going to do a great job with it, we're going to put a bunch of money and resources and talent into these projects. And it was electrifying for a short while, and at least for Force Awakens, that initial marketing push of like, this is the most important cinematic event ever, and everybody has to see this movie, and you literally couldn't get away from the marketing at all, it was kind of stifling. You can only do that so many times, but they seem to take the exact same marketing approach for every new major Star Wars project. Even those interstitial movies that in retrospect, no one really cares about all that much or talks about all that much, so Rogue One and Solo specifically, even those had marketing that really tried to communicate this is extremely important and we're appealing to nostalgia and it's very sentimental but also fun. It's happening here again with the way that they're promoting Kenobi. I think I'm getting ready to join the folks who are saying like, you know what, this is a little bit distasteful at this point. It's one thing to see a movie you don't like, and so you say, hey, the corporation behind this it's just a cash grab. They're just trying to make some money out of it. And then you have the people arguing against, saying, well, yeah, that is their job as a company, and this is why they acquire a brand, is so that they can make money out of it. But you know what? It's been long enough, and we've seen enough of these Star Wars projects come and go, that I really am starting to feel like we are so far beyond the point of beating a dead horse. Like, this is the horse has been dead for so long, you can't hold up the body with sticks anymore and move the jaw and be like, look, here it is, it's just the same as it always was. You love it, you should love it just as much as you ever loved it. No, like, all the meat is gone. It has decomposed to such a state that it's just dust on the ground now. When you try to pick up some of that dust and throw it in my face and say, enjoy, I don't think I can get on board with that anymore. I'm not some kind of hardcore fan. Even from my perspective, it's like, yeah, you know what, guys? I think maybe stop. I think maybe at the very least, if we could have a bit of a break, just 5 years without any movies, maybe do a teeny tiny show, something like Visions that's sort of a spin-off thing, and that's about it. That is the least we can possibly ask for, and after that time, maybe you could bring it back around and say, yes, we're trying again, and it will be some kind of fresh. But right now, I'm sorry, no freshness here. This shouldn't be a shock to anyone, really, but freshness and originality was a massive part of the success of that original trilogy. I get that you can't just replicate originality on a whim. You just have to take some gambles. You just have to try a bunch of different things. I'm not seeing an attempt to do anything new. I watched the Kenobi storyline that we've gotten so far, the action sequences, this twist, looks like they're down to the last, but don't worry, that was actually a good guy. It's just the same. I've seen it so many times in so many different different forms, even from other Star Wars products. I'm just beyond all of it. You can't recreate the magic in a bottle. It's not going to happen. Will they not stop? Is there not a breaking point for this beyond the financial bottom line? Is there any point at which we could expect a big, giant, major media company to have some sense of self-awareness, I guess? The small amount of perception required to see that maybe the thing they're doing for years on end could be having a negative impact on, at the lowest level, a treasured piece of American media history. Relatively low stakes, whatever. If we lose Star Wars, it's not the end of the world for the human race. But beyond that, just homogenizing absolutely everything? I don't know. I think this is many years of Disney fatigue kind of building up. I'm always careful to communicate that Disney, not all bad, and going after individuals working for the big giant media company is kind of silly in most instances. Also, people take it way too far. We do still get some interesting movies from Disney and their subsidiaries. It's not like they're just the epitome of the evil corporation. No, they're really not. And yes, they are a company. They're trying to monetize the stuff they have to the best of their ability, but there's gotta be something. There's gotta be some twinge internally that says, we got enough. We did enough with this. We made enough money. Maybe, again, not even stop. Just take a break. Just slow it down, because the current pace and the quality of what we're getting, it feels indicative of much larger things, and I think that's what really gets me down about it. Actually, this is a decent metaphor, maybe. I guess it's a way of illustrating something that some other people have pointed out, specifically about Star Wars, and an explanation of a lot of the backlash to specifically the prequel trilogy. And I think it was famed writer Junot Diaz. He was talking about how, for him personally, as someone who grew up with the original trilogy, and then going into the sequel trilogy in the late 90s, the fact that it filled in so many of the blanks that were set up by that original trilogy was incredibly disappointing, because when they just reference something kind of offhand in the original trilogy, I think the example he gives is the Clone Wars. They just mention the Clone Wars, and there's no elaboration. You don't know who the clones were. You don't know who was fighting who. You don't even know exactly when that stuff was happening. You know that Anakin was involved and Obi-Wan was involved, and that's about it. For Diaz and for plenty of other people, having that mystery and having that lack of information that you personally either choose to fill in with your own imagination or just leave as a blank, leave as a mystery, is extremely satisfying, or that it can be extremely satisfying. And so when the prequel trilogy started filling in all those blanks, he's like, okay, here's exactly what the Clone Wars were. Here's exactly how Anakin sort of went down the dark path. Here's exactly how all this stuff happened. It's gone. The mystery is gone. Your personal investment in those aspects of the thing have been eliminated because someone's basically just come up and told you were wrong about all of it. In some cases, the sort of canon, the official details might be less interesting than the stuff you came up with. Yeah, I think the comparison here is land development. This is definitely something that I've felt in sort of my hometown. The way it was growing up, as opposed to the way it is now, so much of just the land that was previously undeveloped, left generally spacious or natural, has just all been snatched up. And obviously, this has been a big thing, especially in the US for many, many decades now. And so many people in response to that kind of thing just feel could we not though? There's a demand, yes, but this is a bad way of doing it, and we're losing so much in the process. Even the idea of just the national parks out here, they're such an excellent example of untapped potential in a way. It's just a natural space. Your mind could reel at all the things you could do with this land. But you know what's even better most times is just kind of leaving it the way that it is. The way that Disney has been treating Star Wars. There are 0 national parks. There are basically 0 natural spaces of any kind in a figurative sense. Every bit of mystery, every bit that was left without all the details filled in, they have filled them all in. They have taken up every square inch of land, of creative space that was left open. We're left with just sprawl. We're left with just repetition of the same stuff over and over again, or like lackluster solutions, lackluster stories to fill in the blanks. How depressing. That's just how I feel about it. I have a lot of issues with what the Kenobi show represents, not just for Star Wars overall, but what's going on right now in American media, especially among the larger studios. I'm really not on board. It does kind of worry me that I don't see that self-awareness. I don't see the internal questioning at any of these companies. Maybe it's there and we just don't get to see it, but I have my fingers crossed desperately. They're sweating away. They've stayed crossed for years at this point. There's gotta be a change. There's gotta be a change, and at some point, somebody or some group of somebodies has to bring like a revival of originality and new ideas, new properties. The way it's going right now, I don't think it's super sustainable. Thank you so much for joining me for the ride. This is something that I'm interested to continue talking about with you folks. I guess that's about it. Thanks for stopping by.